Let's move on to Grubhub, which also announced earnings earlier. A bit of a mixed bag here. Quarterly revenue was up, net income was down. What's your takeaway from the earnings report from Grubhub?
Yeah, so I think the crucial part of the equation for anyone looking to compete in this market, it's all going to revolve around customer service. I mean, this is a customer service deal right here, because when you're having your food delivered, you really want two things. You want it in a timely fashion, and you want the right order. And if you miss out on either one of those, it really creates a bad experience, and you're not as likely to use that service again. So I think with Grubhub, this is a really interesting space, because Grubhub, this is what they do. This is the advantage that they have. This is what they do. So when you look at the competition in the space, something like Amazon, for example, in their Prime Now offering, they are getting more into this space. I'd worry about Amazon to the degree that
It's
the
Amazon.
mandate of the business, the mission of the business, is to be the most customer-centric company on the face of the earth.
Right.
On the flip side there, you look at other competitors like Uber, Postmates, DoorDash. Uber, I'm a little bit more on the skeptical side as far as Uber being able to incorporate this into their model and being as effective with it. I think Uber does something very well in getting people from point A to point B. I don't know that it's necessarily as easy to leverage that infrastructure and throw food into the mix. It could ultimately work out for them, but again, I mean, I think it's not their specialty. It's not what they do. We are seeing partnerships with companies like Postmates. I think Postmates is the one that's partnering with Chipotle.
Right.
And I'm sure that more and more partnerships like that will shake out. But I think that Grubhub, they went public at a very good time. So now they're there. I mean, they've got that funding and they're out there. All of these others are still private with the exception of Amazon. And so they have to deal with raising more and more capital, kind of building out the business. There are a lot of attractive qualities, I think, about Grubhub, really. I mean, this is kind of a pure play there. It's a big market opportunity. You've got some estimates out there of a $70 billion takeout market here domestically. Now, that's not their market opportunity, but they're going to measure total food sales, and their revenues are going to be a part of those total food sales.
Right.
All of the metrics are trending in the right direction. I mean, they have a solid balance sheet. They're profitable. They're cash flow positive. Shares are actually trading at a semi-reasonable level at 32 times full-year non-GAAP estimates. So it's not like it's really all that outrageous of a stock right now. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a very competitive environment for sure, but
Which is actually what I want to come back to. And you mentioned this right at the top. In fact, you actually said something about the New York Times earlier that I wanted to go back to as well. You talked about information versus brand, and how in the news industry, brand used to be everything, and now information's everywhere. So brand has been, it's less important.
Right.
I kind of feel like it's almost the same thing here with Grubhub and its competitors, and that's what you were talking about at the beginning of this portion of the show, where Grubhub, to me, so I've used Grubhub. I used it this past weekend. I also used Eat24, which is a Yelp product, and I think I used that like 2 weeks ago or so. Just in case you didn't know, I'm about 75% of this market, this Eat-In market. It's all me at this point. But in my mind, the two are interchangeable, even even in terms of offerings of the different types of food out there, even in terms of the service and just delivery times and everything. To my mind, there's not much differentiation between brand or information at this point. You can get food from anywhere. You can get food from any of these different services out there. If I can call an Uber from a bar and have them have a pizza in that car on my way home, that's the golden ticket right there. That's beautiful. So I guess it comes down to, for me, and maybe there is no correct answer here, but what differentiates Grubhub? Why Grubhub over all the others? Again, their business sounds great. You've been giving us some great numbers here. It doesn't sound like Grubhub's a bad investment. Just, is there a moat? Is there any sort of way for it to distinguish itself from the competition?
I think the quickest way to building any kind of a moat is to have the biggest network. I think that with any of these businesses, really having the biggest network is going to be a great way to sort of separate yourself from your competitors. So whether I'm in Georgia or California, I could use Grubhub and I'm going to find a large selection of restaurants where I can get basically whatever I want. Because, ultimately you're kind of looking for the food first, and sort of how you get it is going to be secondary. And back to sort of the newspaper conundrum there. I mean, I think you're going to see consolidation being a part of this industry as well. And Grubhub, which also owns Seamless, and they just made another acquisition here of a Los Angeles-based delivery company, I think, as well. And so I think we're going to see a lot of network building here early on. I think it's kind of the Wild West right now. And so that's going to be, I think, the biggest advantage. And I think that's an advantage that Grubhub certainly has over other businesses that haven't been able to go public yet, because they're going to be a little bit more constrained financially. And as your network grows, really those network effects start to take place. Other restaurants see you as being the company with the biggest network and really the most reliable service, and then you can kind of develop a brand from that.
Right.
So they kind of work together. I think it's really going to be building that network out, and the faster they can do that, the more of a competitive advantage, or at least some sort of a moat they'd be able to develop. And after that, then really it just becomes about execution, making sure you're providing that great service and making sure that you really are focused on that, because it's easy for companies in the early years to be customer centric. It's another thing to really sustain that behavior and grow it. Customer service is one of those things that it's difficult because it's really not so scalable, right? I mean, you need, generally, you're looking for that human interaction, which is why I'm generally a bit skeptical of these bots that we hear so much about. I think they can provide certain things, like you could find out the hours that a restaurant is open, perhaps. But if you're having an issue with a service or whatever, you're probably going to need to interact with a person.
Right.
And so I think that service, again, is going to prove out to be a very important dynamic to this market.